Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Be Your Own Boss. For your business, if you're a business owner, the most important thing for your business is getting business, right? And how do you get business? Through marketing. Now, when it comes to marketing, there is a lot that goes into marketing. And you can get easily confused with the kind of options that you have. It's not easy to figure out exactly what is needed to market your products, your services in the correct way. So we have someone today with us who's going to help us understand all these things. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, our guest this week is Surbhi Dedhia, the founder of Digital Genie and also the founder of JotMyBio.com. And she's also a podcaster like me. I mean, not every day that I get to interview a podcaster like me. So this is a very special interview. Let's welcome Surbhi. Surbhi, thank you so much for taking our time and joining us here on the Be Your Own Boss podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, Sachin. That was a very phenomenal introduction.
Thanks. So Surbhi, let's start with, like we always do on the Be Your Own Boss podcast. Let's start with your journey, your story, right from the beginning. So tell us about your parents, your siblings, your childhood memories. Where were you born?
Sure. I think that is a great question because like your other episodes, I feel that when you know a person from the very beginning, you kind of understand what he or she is saying. So I'll keep it really short. I was born in Mumbai. So I'm a Mumbaikar, as we call ourselves, in a nuclear family where education was always given a lot of priority. And as a Mumbaikar, you are very prone to hustling, be it commute, be it, extracurriculars, be it, everything is quite a hustle, like fast, street smartness and all of that. And from the school days and back into, graduation, I did bachelor's in master's management studies. And I realized that if I have a master's degree, I would stand a greater chance to do better things, So I went ahead and did an MBA in marketing. But during my MBA, what was different is I did like a string of internships. So I would literally divide my day into going to the college, and the rest of the day I would actually work. And that kind of was very different, I think, that I did back then. I mean, although now it is quite a commonplace. I did like designing packaging solutions for DHL. That was my longest stint. Then I did Aventis Pharma, where I was researching for all the pediatrics. What kind of gifts do they like to get from the pharma companies? I did like a beauty salon. What kind of magazines do women like to read while they're waiting for their appointments? Things like that. So that kind of opened my curiosity a little bit more. It gave me a lot more opportunities. I got placed after MBA into an MNC for communications role. And this is a very funny story, actually, where they didn't know what was this role supposed to do. They just hired me. So the first day, I was actually sitting at the receptionist desk because she was away and I was doing her job. So,
so they hired you, but they didn't tell you what to do.
They didn't know.
They didn't know.
They didn't know because the requirement was actually a global requirement because it was a multinational. They were into B2B professional services consulting company, and they just were running operations for, I think, close to 6-7 years, where then there was a mandate from a global headquarters that, look, you guys need to have somebody in communications. So they just hired. And there I was at the receptionist desk handling everything else but communications. But I think that is a pure communications role as well, isn't it?
Back in Bombay?
It was in Bombay. And after that, the trajectory went really chaotic. I was on a roller coaster, really, because first to put the foot in the door saying that what is communication? Like, why are we doing this? What is the role? So there was this global manager that I was reporting to and a local one where basically local, the leaves and, the variable pay and stuff, admin purposes. Yes. So the global mandates used to, like the campaigns that they would run, I had to literally localize it. And when I say localize in India, it is like the south is different than the north, than the east, than the west. So I had to build at a very rapid pace a lot more database of media people that would be interested in what I had to say. So writing press releases back in those days of press releases, picking up the phone and talking about the story that the journalist has written and saying that, hey, you can enhance it with this kind of data point or, so those kind of things. Then the company's go-to strategy, market strategy was by events. And actually, that was something that brought me to Singapore. So from Mumbai, I went to Singapore within the same company. No. This was like a permanent position.
Okay.
They offered me because they were expanding in the region. So in the past, in the beginning, it was literally like the India office was under the Asia Pacific, and then India grew out on its own. So I got this opportunity to kind of go to Singapore, and then events was their main go-to-market strategy. So we would go ahead and put together events where we would position our analysts. And when the analysts would be on the stage talking about different research pieces they have done in their business units, the clients would be listening to it, and then there would be a good opportunity for them to discuss about things, understand where their business is growing. So this is all happening in early 2000s, right? So a lot more technology was coming in, and people were all ears for this kind of. And at the same time, because of my comms background, I was able to attract a lot of media to come to these events and cover the events and talk about it. So suddenly any event with this company would be like something people would really look forward to. And it also expanded into awards, because then annually we were like looking up companies, how they've progressed and, all of that. And come 2010, the media landscape has completely changed, because then we have the LinkedIn, the Twitter, and the Facebook of the world. And it was then a requirement for the company to look at marketing at very differently. So that's when all the modern marketing, the birth of modern marketing was happening at that time. So now we had tools and softwares which would actually map the customer journey. Like, what is he doing? He's come onto the event. He's subscribed to our newsletter. He's then gone to the website, checked things out. So from the marketing department, I was able to communicate to the sales that, look, next when you're talking to this customer, do X, Y, and Z. You see, so...
I want to, sorry to interrupt you, but I want to really ask you about this one, because this is, there's people think that, the companies have their data, right? Mm-hmm. But when you look at the data of customers that you have, you may have like thousands of customers, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of customers. So is it like you say, you can't say this individual is behaving this particular way, so this is what we need to target, or is that like a group of, these 1,000 customers behave in this particular way? Is there a pattern to, how do you handle that?
So just to set context, right? In the past, people were just putting up websites to be found, right? And this is like in the early 90s and late 90s, website was a big deal. Then newsletters became a big deal. Emailing became a big deal. But what was happening was that the head didn't know what was the hand doing, and hand didn't know what was the leg doing. Literally, it was that. So with the advent of all these modern marketing tools, we were able to actually real-time capture data of people. Now, to your question of how do you know out of thousands of people what this individual is doing, is because you are tagging this. There is a lot of method to this madness, but to just, give your audience a perspective of what happens is you are actually tagging this person to an account, and then you are monitoring that account that you're going after. So it's all based on, now the cookie and the retargeting and all these are big terms. But in the early days, there used to be this science of just literally tagging, giving him a label that this person is from this business units of this company.
Okay.
So, and the company that I was working with had 8 business units. So suddenly I was in a position to, I literally had the seat at the table. You know what I mean? Yeah. So just from planning the event and putting an event together, now I was able to tell the sales teams that, look, some of these clients are not interested in the content. Some of these clients are very interested in this content. So now how are you going to go and approach them and talk knowledgeably?
And you could tell who is what, like who's interested, who's not interested.
So it was based on their activity. Right. And of course, we used to meet them at the events that we used to do it. So then there was still the closing of the loop. To just check and balance that what you're doing on the internet, on the digital, is the same as physical, or on-site and off-site, as people call it now. Yeah.
And then how did your journey go after that? Like after Singapore?
Yeah. So I was still in Singapore. I was doing this whole regional. I think one of the greatest body of work that I developed was building a global knowledge center, which I had like 50 people who were with my team, and it was like a part of secondment. So I went to Chennai, developed this. So we used to do this thing called as newsletters. Were very big for us because ours was a knowledge-based business, and it was a very dynamic newsletter. So now if you are in a healthcare business but you don't want to listen to everything else that we are doing, you can literally get that. And within the healthcare business, if you are now only in India and you want to just understand Indian markets or Indian companies, you can get only that. So setting this thing up, it's like literally a matrix, a maze, but just using the tools to kind of understand how do you match this person to this profile, and how do you make sure that he gets what he's asking, or something that we developed as marketing team. And at the peak of it, we were 80 of us, back end and the front end, who was doing events, who were doing this modern marketing tools, who were talking to the sales teams, everything. So it was really huge operation, that machinery that was set up. And that experience actually brought me to another opportunity in Singapore, but it was at a global level now.
Okay.
And this was like really building a marketing department ground up, like roll up your sleeves, do the dirty work, do rebranding, do everything required for this consulting company to, listen to us and take notice of us. It was in building service cultures. We were helping businesses build service cultures. And within that role also, I saw in reality the power of thought leadership, because I used to work, and the owner of this business, the consulting business, was New York Times best-selling author Ron Kaufman. And he was celebrity in the customer service already. So, but when he's developing his consulting, it was based on his brand. So now how do you differentiate another brand which he started, but it cannot be him. It has to be somebody else who is running the show. So that experience was really, really interesting at a global level. So built a network of partners, in different countries, like as small as Fiji and Croatia to as big as United States of America to Dubai. So that's when I used to come to Dubai very often.
Okay.
And then my husband got a great secondment project. And going back to my secondment to develop the team, I thought, this is a great opportunity for him. He should absolutely take it. We were a young family and we grabbed that opportunity to come to Dubai for just 2 years. And we thought, we'll go back to Singapore.
Like everyone.
And everyone says that you come to Dubai, never go back.
For just a couple of years,
yes.
And then you stay here for 20.
That's my story too.
It's only 2 generations.
Yeah. So we are here 7 years now. And so in Dubai, what happened when the opportunity came by pretty fast, and we had to kind of come here pretty fast. I had 2 little children under the age of 5. So there was a lot of things happening. So suddenly from a global marketing director, I was like a homemaker and in Dubai, in a new place. And I thought that, I have come to Dubai so many times. I can totally fly because I know how Dubai works. But I forgot that I came in Dubai only between November and February. I never came otherwise. So that was a big learning curve. And then I was giving interviews and looking for opportunities in the B2B marketing space. Somehow one thing worked and it didn't kind of roll off very well. So there were these vendors and my partners from the past, and they knew I was in the region, and they said, hey, you are here. Would you like to help me with this and that? And then one thing rolled into another, and I found myself doing websites for somebody, strategy for somebody else.
As freelance projects?
So at that time it was just project. And I was also thinking that it is just going to be a project. So I take this up, finish it and move on. And I'll end up in a corporate world altogether. And while doing this, somebody signed me up for a year, and I was like, okay, whenever time comes, I will tell them, I'll give them a month's notice, and I'll say that, okay, look, I'm going to the corporate world. So those retainers were very strong, and one retainer became 2, and 2 became 5, and it just rolled on. And I was just a solopreneur, really. And before I knew it, VAT came in, and they said, where is the invoice? Like register, tax registration number and all that. So I had to do all that. And overnight, I had to literally think of a company name, and all my years of branding and, working to develop a brand came in handy, because then, I could build my business, name it correctly, brand it correctly.
So it's like one thing led to another.
Literally, chain reaction.
An entrepreneur.
I was an entrepreneur. Literally, in the next morning, I wake up and I'm like, entrepreneur, seriously.
Wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, that was quite shocking, very scary. Didn't know. And then I said, the thing that I kept telling myself, if it doesn't work, it's okay. You can always quit. You can go back. And, it went on for a very long time till I realized that now I'm never going back. Yeah. Because the joy that it brought and the trials and tribulations, it totally transforms you as a person, in terms of who you are, what you're thinking, the clarity it gives you, of the purpose it brings to you. So,
what were kind of the early day challenges when you started, and, you registered your company and you officially are an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it was a business. Yeah,
digital Genie. And then, what kind of challenges did you have in the beginning?
Many. So, when I was doing projects, it was just that I'm here to help you resolve this issue, and I'm going to give you a solution and move on, right? So suddenly I was feeling much more responsible, because now I have a brand to go by, like a reputation to build, website to build, content to put. It was just all that.
It became serious.
Yeah, it became really serious. It was almost like, we are dating, and then suddenly an engagement ring, and it becomes
Absolutely.
Committed.
Yeah.
So I was very committed to building it. And though the cushion or the good part was that, look, I had already the clients who knew, liked, and trusted me. So they were able to, that part of business development didn't hit me. But otherwise, everything else, like understanding how the business works here, the legal process of everything, and, just note that this was just in the second year of us living here. So I was still under the impression that I'm going back. So all the time I had these things in my head that, okay, if it doesn't work, it's okay, I will go back, right? Like I had that guiding force, but it kind of helped me to just propel, because I knew even if I'm failing and I'll go back.
Do you think the pressure was less because of that?
Yeah.
Because of the...
Also, the pressure was a little lesser because, between me and my husband. So you see, the salary was coming in every month when I was in the corporate world, and that independence and the confidence it gives you. And when you're doing projects, it's piecemeal. Although I had really fairly good amount of variety of projects, as well as I had retainers. So it kept coming in, and it sustained me for a while. What I didn't realize at that time was COVID was around the corner, and what if it all cuts off? Then what? So I think in the style of business, building a business, one, what I was not trained, or, I was like a complete accidental entrepreneur. I didn't think about planning contingency. And when it came to losing all the retainers, pivoting was so hard for me, because I was like, now what? I cannot go back to anything. There was no job. There was no business. Like retainers, my clients, although they were so good, they kept on saying that we'll do little projects, but we can't keep you on retainer and all that. But you see, now that you are doing so many things for a particular client and you get only a slice of it, you're not going to enjoy it, right? So, so that's what happened. In March 2020, it was like snipped off totally.
Did you reach a point in your journey where you decided to hire people, and do you have a team right now?
Yeah, I do work with so again, that decision whether to go solo or build a team and take overheads. And very early in the days, there were just, I think the earlier question that you asked me about what all things did occurred, like the decisions on what project should I take, because I was building a brand now, I was building a reputation, so I wanted to be known for certain things. I couldn't be known for everything, right? So that also came in the decision where I am saying that, okay, do I hire everybody on the payroll, or do I work with a great network of vendors that I have built over the years? So when I was in as a global marketing director, I have vendors that I've worked with for, and they are very, very, what should I say, expert in their particular task. So if I work with a web development guy, he's the best. He's just doing web development. Yeah. If that person is content writer, he's just a content writer. So you see, I had that base that I didn't feel really the need.
Yeah.
And
you would outsource it to the vendors?
Yeah. Most of my clients, again, because they are SMEs, they have some or the other kind of marketing support. So either there is a local agency, or there are two to three people on the team on their payroll. So my role really is to, integrate all of this for them and help them achieve the ROI, the big picture thing that they are looking for. So I realized far ahead in time that, I may not really go down the hiring and getting the overheads on me. And thank God I didn't do that, because I would feel totally, at a loss when all my retainers were taken away from me.
Yeah. I mean, during COVID, this was one of the toughest decisions that entrepreneurs had to take.
Yeah.
Of letting go of people.
Correct.
And all that. So because you worked on a outsourcing model, you didn't have to do.
Yeah, that thank God. I really think that, and that has been like a thing that I've gone ahead even now. That and because, as I said, I'm mostly a fractional CMO for most of these clients that I work with. Then they are looking at outside in perspective rather than having somebody who comes with legacy like of overheads and stuff like that. So it really works win-win for me.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. And once you started, once you started getting your clients and like things started rolling up after COVID, once things were set up. So what kind of how did you decide what projects to take, what projects to not take? Because you said that you had that in mind, that you want to be known for certain things and not for all things.
Right.
How did you decide that, and how was saying no to a project? Like we say, right? Aati vi Lakshmi ko na bolna is very difficult. Right?
True. And this is a fantastic question. I think for all those budding entrepreneurs out there, it is a trial and error. But if you know that you like something and it brings you the most joy, just stick to it. And I learned it the very hard way. Okay. So when I left corporate and that accidental entrepreneur that I was shaped into, I did everything for everybody. So because you are at a global marketing director level, when you have done like website development to running webinars to running a physical event to branding, you are like exposed to so many, and you think, I know all this. Yeah, you know all this, but does it bring you that joy? Does it give you that fulfillment? Because as a corporate person, you're not thinking, because you have a whole battalion behind you who is helping you, cover that.
You just do your part, right?
Yeah. You just are, like literally a conductor managing the show at that level that I was at. And when I came here, I was really alone. So although I have these vendors, they are all going to ask me for money, right? Like I have to be able to show value to my client, to be able to pay them, as well as value to them to be able to fulfill their fees, right? So very hard way. When the VAT registration happened and I was like a proper business set up and all that, it brought me to a juncture of what am I taking on? And a lot of times I have taken up, somebody wanted to rebrand their business, and they're an interior decorator company. It was exciting as an individual because I generally like the colors and the designing part of it. But does that mean that is it going to add to the portfolio? So now suddenly I'm thinking of business as an entity and thinking of what is it that I want to add to my catalog, if you will. Is that something that if I have a next client of this stature, an interior decorator is not going to appeal to SME? So the clear answer is no.
Yeah.
right? And since I was so much of a B2B marketer, in Dubai, suddenly the retail is very big here, and oil and gas and these certain industries are very big, but retail and F&B especially are very B2C. So I had to say no to these B2C. As exciting as they seemed, very colorful, vibrant, immediate results, but I knew they were not for me for long term. So I had to literally set up filters and funnel it down to really what I like to do. And it brought me back to the point that, look, what I really enjoy is orchestrating part, like the conducting the whole thing. So if you have a marketing agency or a marketing team, and if you are looking for an outside-in perspective where, you've done certain things, but it's not working for you, then I would love to integrate it all for you and show you how you can. And literally in marketing, it's proven that you don't need to do everything. So if your competitor is doing events, and maybe that may not be your strategy, you may want to do not every month an event, you may want to do a podcast, for example. It's a very hypothetical example, but choosing what works for you allows me to talk to these owners, business owners, or C-suite very differently, because going back to my story of when I had the seat at the table, when all the modern marketing tools came and I was able to really voice out, I realized seeing the business as a big thing. First you look at, and everybody wants business, right? As you just rightly said at the start of the episode, that you want business, you want leads. So look behind and then go down that rabbit hole, whether it is sales, it is marketing, and you don't need to do everything really.
Do you remember any particular case or anything that you want to share where the company came to you with a particular kind of profile, and then how did you help them? How does your business, how does Digital Genie help businesses? That's what I'm trying to understand. How do you?
Sure. I most of my clients, since I'm working with a lot of B2B, their sales cycles are pretty long. And also, because they are competing in nature with certain businesses, I'm always under an NDA. So for the purpose of this episode, I'm not going to take names. But I think an example here makes most sense to kind of distinguish, right? Or give more context to why am I saying not everything is necessary. So what happens is people think that, social media, and I would want to be on every social media because there is Facebook ads and there is LinkedIn ads and Google AdWords. But I think what many people when you start business, right, what you forget is who is it that you serve, like the persona of the customer. And one of the clients that I worked with, they were like a 10-year-old running business. They'd recently got a great place to work. So a lot of people on the team were also there in the business with the company for a very long time. And then, over a period of time, some kind of lax attitude comes in. You're like, I know my job. But what happens in this particular situation was that when I was telling them that, what is your brand tone? Are you very formal or are you casual? So that kind of, they were like, no, we don't talk about that. Talk to us about how are you going to, what is going to be on our website and all of that. And they were at this juncture where they were having only one business unit and they were expanding into different industry because they have proven it. They were into B2B professional services and they were expanding into different business units. And so, dialing them all back into the start of it. And then that's when they discovered that, look, our website is just showing such boring colors. It needs to be rebranded. So then what happens is I said, okay, now you have to choose whether you are going to rebrand right now and spend time rebranding, or you are going to go out there and say that we are doing X, Y, and Z. It is a very tough decision because either you set the base right or you go ahead and pick up all the... Yeah. So it was nice and interesting conversation where we did both eventually, but at their own paces. So first part was obviously to understand, build that whole content around who they are serving and, which other businesses they want to get access to, expand to. And then the next part was also to, build a very interactive website, because it is a service. So finally, they're not getting a product. Their customers are not getting a tangible product. They will need to be educated and nurtured about how the service is going to impact their business. So it took a lot of, push to get it. And also their marketing was only used to, marketing is just thinking that I need to put a newsletter, I need to put blog, I need to do content. Because what happens is also for many small businesses, they think content, and now with Chat GPT and AI, people have gone like bonkers, if I can use this word, to just put in more and more content. But people forget to think that you need an educational content. You need something to excite talk about the industry, talk about how this is going to help you. And there are different ways that you can, put the content. You just don't need to sit in the echo chamber of just putting in more and more and more content. There could be very different types of content as well.
So, Surbhi, for the business owners who are listening, for the or the executives who are the officers who are listening to this, if they want to benefit from the services that you provide at Digital Genie, what's the best way to reach out to you, and how do they contact you?
Yeah, so earlier you mentioned I also am running another small side hustle. Actually, it's not a side hustle anymore. It's quite a big. Jot My Bio has become very big after COVID, or actually during COVID. So I think I would just dial back a little bit here and say how Jot My Bio came into being. So there was a time, like the dark ages, as I call it. COVID happened. Most of my retainers were snapped up, and literally I had to think of how do I earn my next buck, right? So, and now I'm an entrepreneur. I have a shop. I have a reputation to manage, right? So I decided to think through what I like doing the best. I love positioning people. I love telling stories of an individual, how he or she is doing what she's doing and why, right? So sometimes you can't even talk about yourself. If you ask me to write my bio, I'm going to have, you are your best critic. Basically, everybody loves to criticize themselves the most. So it takes another person from outside to look at you and weave a story and position you out in the market. And as a marketer, I love positioning a particular product, service, or person in this situation. So that's where Jot My Bio was born. And that time was a time where a lot of people were suddenly finding themselves jobless. Yeah. And this business really took off because the price point of this business is very low. And it is a productized service. So it is just one thing I do for you. I just put your bio together. So it is partly automated, and then I put together a bio, which is either a short form or a long form, depending on the need. And most of the people go for long form because LinkedIn is a great avenue. And today, if you Google your name, LinkedIn is in the first 5 searches. So that has taken off in a big way. And the best way to contact me is obviously look me up on LinkedIn. I'm Surbhi Dedhia everywhere. Also my website, digitalgenie.co and JotMyBio.com. So these are the places you can look me up. And
So working professionals, if you're watching this and if you want a better job, contact Surbhi, go to her LinkedIn profile and go to JotMyBio.com, and then she can write in your profile for you. And this can be a life changer, right? Because this is so important. I mean, what are those like pivotal moments in one's life, right? When you change a job and you get a better thing, you position yourself right, and you get into a new position, and then life takes a different direction altogether.
Yeah, I think even meeting, right? Like if you're a professional who wants to grow himself or herself, if you're not changing jobs even, but if you're in a role where you're meeting executives and you want to showcase what you bring to the table, people are going to look you up. Before meeting anyone, even going to a restaurant today, we Google it up. So even meeting people, we want to Google them up and see who they are. And when you Google, just do one thing after this episode. Just type in your name in Google search bar and look at what comes. And if it doesn't show who you are or how you are, I think that's the time for you to contact me.
Absolutely. And Surbhi, there is a little this or that section that we're going to go into, where I'll ask you some questions on give you two choices, and you give me what you prefer and why.
Okay.
So 30 seconds each.
Okay.
Let's start with,
is there a coffee hamper that I get for getting? Just kidding.
So waking up at 4 a.m. or going to bed at 4 a.m.? What's your style?
Oh, I'm a morning person.
You're
4 a.m. Clear choice. Yes.
Yeah.
I am a big believer of, circadian rhythm. You just need to have your biological clock matched with the circadian rhythm, which is like the location you are in, you just rise with the sun and go off with the sunset. I feel that kind of allows. So, if you think of your body as one of the tools that help you do what you do, I think getting up early, and I'm a mother. So if I can pack in like 30 hours a day, that will be like the ideal. But yeah, I think if I get up earlier than my children, I can take off a lot of load of my morning.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. When it comes to, and this is a question about networking, $1 million or million people, network of million people, what would you prefer?
Tough one. Yeah, that is really tough. I think now that I'm in Dubai and your referral works like wonders, I think 100 million people. Because that's going to bring me that $100 million anyways. Yes. Yeah.
And probably more.
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
Okay. And when it comes to networking, do you believe in being a part of multiple networks, as many networks as possible, or being a part of a few networks and being actively involved in those networks?
Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. The second one, go few, but contribute more. Also, I feel that in Dubai, there is a lot of emphasis on networking generally in the business world, and there is a lot of option out there. Not everything is going to suit your needs. So, did I try everything? Did I go and check out? Yes, I did my, market research really. And then I choose to be a part of a smaller, fewer networks, which give me more value. And it is a two-way commitment, because I think networking is really a two-way street. You need to give before you can get.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Great. And looking back at your journey, from the little girl, growing up in Mumbai to the entrepreneur that you've become, are there any people on the, that you want to give the credit to? Of course, yourself. But, other than yourself, are there any people that you want to give credit to?
I think there is always these. I mean, if you reflect back so far, the journey, right? Yeah. If you reflect back, and when you reflect, only that time you think, oh, the puzzle makes sense, right? Like before you fell in place. I think from the beginning, it was kind of destined that I would become an entrepreneur because be it school, be it college, I was always at the forefront in some way, like being in elocution competition, organizing community events, even in the building, the whole E would be, organized by me, something like that. So I always find myself doing that for others. So I feel there are people who play that role in order for you to, solve your puzzle, really. So obviously parents, because, being in Mumbai and a nuclear family allowed me to, that emphasis on education, all of that helped. Then, the partner that you choose, the people that you work with, and there are an umpteen number of people, but there are these catalysts who kind of switch that on. The first people that I met in Dubai and the trust that they had because I had worked with them in the past, and that switched on this part for me, that I need not really run from because applying for jobs after being in a different country and a region, in this region, was a very different experience culturally. Where in that region I was at, the sought after in that sense, because, there were always opportunities coming to me. Here I was trying to grab them. So it was the supply demand, right? And here the culture is very different than in Asia. So a long curve, but then you have those catalysts who switch on. And I think one thing as a credit really is the mindset that you adopt, right? Like you say that, okay, you know, because there is always so many things that you can do in this world and there is always so many negativity that can hit you. Yeah. But that mindset and that openness to embrace the opportunities at the time. Maybe, you know, you meet somebody just for a coffee and that person may just open that idea in your brain and just, you know, so there are umpteen number of people. There's not, but credit, yes, definitely to a lot of people who have been those catalysts and that openers for me.
Brilliant, brilliant. One last question, Surbhi, as we wind up here. You're a podcaster yourself. Mm-hmm. How was your experience being on the Be Your Own Boss podcast?
Oh my gosh, wonderful. Firstly, I should say that this has been my first in-person podcast that I have done. As an interview, because I've given a lot of interviews in the past. It is always been international because podcast community is such an international and wonderful open community. So you end up doing a lot of interviews. And talking about your story to inspire others. And I think the opportunity that it gave me today to present my story to your audience. So thank you. This has been brilliant.
And how can audience check out your podcast?
So my podcast is called The Making of a Thought Leader. The target audience, or the reason that I put together this podcast is for entrepreneurs who forget to tell their stories and they are just in the rut of closing business, building the business. And I think there is a lot of money left at the table if you don't tell your story. So personal brand and building your personal brand is really great.
Absolutely. Yeah. And podcast is a great way of doing that.
It is. I think because the number one, if I can put statistics to it, in my research, I may have met like 110 or 20 entrepreneurs, like through networking or whatever. And if I would just go and ask them this question, what is easier for you, to write a blog, pen your thoughts, or to speak? 80% of them said speak. So if all the entrepreneurs are able to speak, and I think the other question would be like, would you like to face a camera, or you are comfortable just talking on the phone? So they would say talking on the phone, and that voila, podcast is the best way to go. So I think most of the entrepreneurs, and I think as a industry, podcast is also kind of booming. There is a lot more excitement around it, and I think the timing is really great to, because as a podcast you can listen doing other things, driving or whatever.
This is one thing that I always tell my audience, that if you can't watch the video, listen to it on Spotify.
Exactly.
Because this content goes on YouTube as well as on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, everywhere.
Absolutely. And my podcast really does that. I try and bring in experts who do only LinkedIn or who build businesses on LinkedIn. So they would give tips of how do you use that tool. And as an entrepreneur, you have only that much time. So how do you get the best bang of the buck when you have that little time, but to build your brand? So that's the emphasis of the podcast.
Brilliant. Surbhi, thank you so much for sharing your journey and your story with us.
Thank you.
Such a wonderful conversation.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that was Surbhi Dedhia, the founder of Digital Genie, and you've been watching and listening to Be Your Own Boss.